maybe if I'm fortunate enough, I can open my heart sufficiently to act as an instrument in the hands of His Divine Grace, Bhanta Swami Prabhupada. Bright light, small screen, didn't know the setup, so this PowerPoint you're not going to really see so well. It's okay, because the PowerPoint goes straight along with this outline. So who among you does not have one of these? Just raise your hand real quick, and Braja Bihari is going to get you one. And you'll easily be able to follow along without the screen. What about a click? Fantastic, thank you. And where's the click thing there? So I kind of pointed this way. All right, so this is a marketing presentation by my humble self. And there's a really important quote. Now this quote's actually not in the outline. I'd like to read it. A personal realization does not mean that one should, out of vanity, attempt to show one's own learning by trying to surpass the previous acharya. He must have full confidence in the previous acharya, and at the same time he must realize the subject matter so nicely that he can present the matter for the particular circumstances in a suitable manner. That is one of the definitions of marketing. And because it's the words of His Divine Grace, I'm just going to read it again. Must realize the subject matter so nicely that he can present the matter for the particular circumstance in a suitable manner. So now we go into yet another reaffirmation of Srila Prabhupada's marketing. The original purpose of the text must be maintained. No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it, yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. Again, marketing, but then he underlines this quote. This is realization. Essentially, Srila Prabhupada is saying to us that if we can't understand the subject matter, not screw something strange out of it, but then present it to the audience under the right circumstances in a presentable manner, that is the definition of realization. So we're introducing ISKCON's 8 elements of marketing. And if you were to immediately join the BBT and had no prior knowledge of book publishing, you'd be faced with all kinds of terms. Curling. How many people know what curling is? Huh? Kerning, sorry. Yeah, I don't even know what it is. So no, one person knows, 2 people, 3, 4 people know in the room. It's a technical term that the devotees who publish Srila Prabhupada's books know, and we don't know. So some of these terms, okay, maybe you haven't heard them, maybe you have. The 8 elements, which are on the cover of your pamphlet there, we start with research, move to branding, products and services, positioning, distribution, financials and budget. Do we have a marketing budget in ISKCON? Anybody? No, okay. Communications and relationships, and then lastly, the devotee culture. And in one sense, the devotee culture not in one sense, the devotee culture powers the whole thing. Notice where these lines are going. You see some dotted lines, and you see some back and forth lines. And we'll get to that. So today's presentation is in 3 parts: developing a marketing mindset, ISKCON's 8 elements of marketing, and developing an ISKCON marketing plan. So let's first talk about developing a marketing mindset. What is marketing? We'll just start with the definition. This is coming from the American Marketing Association. And again, try to follow along because you're not easily seeing that screen in the outline that you have. So marketing is the activity, the sets of institutions, and the processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. That's from the American Marketing Association. And you know, what we could easily do is just ISKCON marketing is the same thing, except we're exchanging offerings that bring people closer to Krishna. So, okay, activities. Devamrita Maharaj, in his portrayal of the different venues that he was speaking to, he was engaged in marketing activities because he was changing his voice or changing the topic according to the subject, according to the audience that he was speaking. In ISKCON, we don't really have any institutions, marketing institutions. If we're going to be serious about really going after the Western audience, or for that matter, any audience, we are going to have to establish the marketing institutions and processes, and then, you know, really working on the creating, communicating, and delivering the exchanges and the offerings. And of course, a simple definition is ISKCON marketing, bringing people closer to Krishna. I thought it might be nice to just look at the 7 purposes of the original ISKCON Corporation. Srila Prabhupada is here to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge, and then later to propagate a consciousness of Krishna. And so I looked up the word propagate, and the definition is to spread and promote. And these, of course, are marketing terms, especially the word promote. So marketing is embedded in, not embedded, it's strongly put into the original 7 purposes of the original ISKCON Corporation. Let's speak about the goal of marketing. And what we did was with McGraw, marketing should be all about attracting and retaining profitable customers to your business. ISKCON marketing is all about attracting and retaining people to Krishna consciousness. So you see how marketing from a technical, worldly definition point of view just immediately transfers into what we're doing. It's not some outside concept, so to speak. So from a mindset point of view, let's make sure that we're not holding on to some notion that says that marketing is a strange thing. Give me a minute. Okay, so the next notion on mindset, a market-driven or product-driven. So a market-driven starts by finding out what the people are looking for, what type of people they are, and what can we do to serve them. So it's getting outside the organization, getting with the people, understanding what the people are all about, and then finding things that match what they're all about, that of course doesn't degrade or lower our own standards. That's a market-driven approach. A product-driven approach takes an existing product and searches for people to accept it. Generally speaking, a market-driven approach is more successful. Generally speaking, certainly in an organized way, we have been a product-driven organization. We have the truth, and now we're going to go out and spread the truth, and we're going to hope that people are going to attract it. And then in that process, of course, we end up intuitively doing some marketing, naturally doing some marketing, but not in actually a systematic way. In the instructions of His Divine Grace and those 7 purposes are that we are supposed to systematically propagate Krishna consciousness. Okay, another notion of developing a marketing mindset. There's 8 of them. Core competencies. What is it that we're really good at? We should analyze that. What things aren't we good at that we really need to be good at? We need to figure that one out. Really need to understand our customers. You can put it in quotes. You can find a different term if you want. I didn't take the time to like say, okay, well, customers, what should an ISKCON term be? You can all figure that out. Competition. We don't usually think about competition, but let's think for a moment how the competition has just basically eviscerated us in certain areas. Bhakti. Especially in the Western audience. Look, this is a vague estimate. Maybe there's 10 people for every one person. One person accepts us as bhakti, and 9 people accept all this other stuff as bhakti. We've been beaten on bhakti. You're shaking your head? You disagree? Oh, you agree. Okay. It's one of those Indian things. We've been beaten on kirtan. We've been beaten on mantra meditation. Collaboration. This is a wonderful example of collaboration, where a meeting is called and everybody that has an interest in this subject matter gathers together. It's a fantastic first step. Creativity. Creative force tied with technology. That's what makes things happen in this world. Over in the BBT, they have tried to do some content development. Romapad Maharaj, in his preaching to college students, he's worked on content. Okay, so we have some lights, some stars in the sky, but we don't have the blazing sun of content development like you see in other organizations. There's this temple, and no, I shouldn't nail in on anybody. Does every temple have a communications officer? A person who's appointed as a communications officer? In the old days, one of the things that really moved the movement forward is that we had a Sankirtan leader. I think we still have Sankirtan leaders. I'm a little bit one step away from the temple level in ISKCON. Do we still have Sankirtan leaders? Nityananda Pran, do we have a Sankirtan leader here? Okay. Do we have a communications officer? No. And ultimately connection, developing that connection. So that's next principle to be aware of. Positive reputation and image, negative reputation and image, all in this word of mouth. Only 6% of the people that you bump into who don't like what they're experiencing are going to let you know. And it's the reverse. Only 6% of those people who like what you're doing are going to somehow let you know. But what they do is let everybody else know. And if you're not really out there with your research and understanding what's going on, you don't actually know what people are thinking about you. Marketing management or marketing manglement, or almost as bad, autopilot. The marketing process for an organization that's going to be successful has to be managed. If you don't do marketing correctly, you start to get, you're off, you're mangled, you're, I don't know, manglement. How many, besides Nityananda Prabhu, how many people here have a degree in marketing? Okay, so we have a few. How many people have actively been engaged in marketing? Okay, so that's about 12 out of 100. So what we have to do is go through a learning process. How many people have actively engaged in self-study? Raise your hand. Come on, you don't study Prabhupada's books? We have all been engaged in self-study, okay? Especially when you know that you need something, you need some knowledge, you go out and you find that knowledge. How many people took a look at these few emails that I sent you? Did you look at them? That's an example of self-study. And the primary reason I was sending those to you was so that you could get an idea of what self-study would be like. Because creating a learning universe among ourselves is a core element to what we have to do. And the last point, and especially important for where we are in our marketing development, we've got to get organized and clear and really carve out a serious direction. There's no question that the basic sincerity in our heart, and then you go out and, okay, we're going to preach to the Westerners. This is Western outreach, and we're going to leave this place, and we're going to go out. And that sincerity alone will accomplish a lot. But if we learn more of the basic principles of marketing and engage in them, we're going to be that much more effective. We should have, North America and each temple should have a strategic marketing plan if they wish. We've got to get into executing and leading. And this is another way of saying what Devamrita Maharaj said on a number of occasions in his lecture this morning. This is what you might say a systems term, okay? So PDSA, and we're using this a lot more and more in ISKCON. Plan, do, study, act. Make a plan. It doesn't have to be the best plan. A good plan today is better than a better plan tomorrow. Go out and do something, and then study what you've done. And with that study, now you're going to act as opposed to do. The word act meaning with more direction, more clarity. And then keep cycling through. Make a new plan. Go and do it. Study it. Act. Recycle through. If ISKCON will be a good marketing organization, it's going to take 5 years from now. And you don't want to just learn, not do. You want to learn something, go do it. Learn some more, go do it. Okay. before we go on to 8 elements of marketing, any questions on what we've covered so far? Huh? Yes, Mara. Yes. The question was, do we have somebody with one of these that can run around, or no? It's okay if we don't. Basically, the question was, is it a marketing plan or is it marketing plans? And it's marketing plans. And, you start on a basic notion, and then from there you move forward, and yes, it'll get a little complex. So, for instance, within ISKCON, we're using the term millennials a certain amount. How many people intuitively think that millennials are our most obvious target market? Raise your hand. For Western outreach. Okay, so, enough of not so many people doing marketing in terms of a degree or a job, but over half the room thinks, okay, millennials are probably our target. So we would need a plan. Now, of course, you would then take it to the next level.
Take this one so we can pass it on.
And, Badri Narayan Maharaj asked something about millennials, and then I sent out that little thing, but of course it was a private exchange. Did you read that little bit of research? So, millennials are then broken out into a number of different categories, and actually to capture the nuns, which was one of them that Devamrita Maharaj mentioned, you'd have to have a specific target market plan for that group as opposed to other types of millennials. Any other questions on marketing mindset? Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you. So as part of marketing, you said eight parts, right? One is the knowing the customer. So to know the customer is very important part of the marketing. So now when we say the Western preaching, so we're talking about the Western mindset or the color or the creed. Who is the customer? First we should know. So can you please comment on that, please?
Okay, I will when we get into the eight marketing notions. Great. Right now I just want to see if there's any more questions on marketing mindset. One last question.
So Prabhu, you talked about market-driven and product-driven approaches, and you said market-driven is generally more successful. So in terms of bhakti, people doesn't know what bhakti is. That means people doesn't know what they want. So is it not that we should, take a product-driven approach than the market-driven?
Well, there are a number of people that don't know what bhakti is. That's correct. But we should understand more about them so that whatever particular aspect of bhakti that more answers their interests, their concerns, then we could be emphasizing that aspect of bhakti. How many aspects of bhakti are there, my Lord? In other words, we feel, by the mercy of the Lord and our spiritual master, that we've understood the truth. Or at least we've been exposed to the truth and we're trying to understand the truth. Is it a truth? Or are there truths? We've been exposed to multiple truths, many truths. So which truth do we want to deliver to the person that just knows nothing about bhakti? That's the question that marketing is designed to serve and understand. Okay. So, the 8 elements of marketing begin with market research. I guess I could use my company as an example. We have done formal marketing. I've been selling a product for 23 years. I know my customers really well. And at the same time, we regularly engage in marketing research at great expense. Why? Because we're looking for the nuances of it. If we right now passed around a piece of paper and said, okay, tell us about our target customer. In other words, let's say we just stopped this discussion and asked everyone to write right now, tell us who our target customer is. Just who they are, not anything about them. We already know that a few people will put millennium, but we've already discussed that. There's all kinds of different types of millennials. So we don't even quite know exactly who our target audience is. Then we take it to the next level. What's important to them? I hope you don't mind, Maharaj, that I keep going to your lecture this morning, but you were pointing out a lot of marketing truths in it, as you know. So Maharaj was explaining how he's understood a certain aspect of a certain type of person and is preaching a bit to them. But if we actually do market research in a scientific way, we'll actually end up with a much deeper understanding of what people are thinking. Branding, you saw the exercise, and of course there's a number of devotees that were kind enough to send me their first stab at it. If you kindly remember the definition of branding. Who are we? But not just who are we in relationship to the people that we wish to affect? And then when we look at it from the person's point of view, what do they feel and think about us? And what would we want them to think and feel about us? These analyses, this creation of a brand, is a core building block. Maybe we don't think about what we have as products and services. Maybe we should. Karma. It's a word that's used. Pervasive, actually, to a certain extent. What's our product, if you will, on karma? We can, yes, go ahead. Yeah, karma free. Key it in with quotes in Google right now and see how many see how many hits you get. And it's something that maybe we should capture, because that's a marketing mindset. That's an expression of karma that sounded really good to me. But put it in quotes and see how many hits you got. How many? Okay, so it's out there. Right. But 540,000 is not that much that we possibly could own that brand, if you will. We possibly could own it if we promoted it. Okay. Maybe it's too pervasive. Everybody watch that video on positioning? The blind man, come, change the words, now the money flows. We're speaking about Krishna. But if we speak in one way, it attracts somebody. If we speak in another way, maybe they don't get it. You can't do any positioning unless you know who you're talking to, and your brand is in relationship to who you wish to speak to, and then you've formed your products and your services. So there's a hierarchy here. Distribution. We have distribution systems, and we have some broken distribution systems. And we have some distribution systems that really need an overhaul. What distribution system might be in your mind that at least this humble soul feels is broken. Anybody? It's the internet. It's really bad news, and we're going to spend some time on that bad news tomorrow. Which distribution system, in your opinion, or let's say you guess, you try to guess what, in my opinion, what distribution system really needs an overhaul? Anybody? Book distribution could use an overhaul. In my mind, I was thinking of the so-called Festival of India. This thing really needs an overhaul. It's 30 years old. Nothing's changed. It still attracts some people, but it needs an overhaul. Finance and budget, we spoke briefly on that. Communication and relationships. The whole notion of successfully communicating, but then that communication resulting in relationships. And lastly, our devotee culture. So those are the 8 elements. So, the definition of marketing research: a system to monitor, collect, analyze, report, take action, marketplace information. There's tons of information out there if we just research it. Just on the internet. What to speak of, we have an army of devotees that can go out and actually do what you call primary research, where we can go out and start asking people about things. We could put a research team into every Rath Yatra this summer if we wish to, and find out a whole lot about what people are thinking about us. Wouldn't that be tremendous? Find out those people that are standing off on the side and just walk up to them and say, well, I see you kind of like standing, you're kind of like looking at what we're doing. What do you think we're doing? And get an understanding of what people are thinking. So market research is used throughout all of the 8 steps. It never stops. We're always trying to understand more and more about who we're trying to reach out to. So there's monitoring, collecting, analyzing, reporting, taking action, measuring results. And with that, what information is collected, where do we get it, how do we use it? Those are all questions that relate to research. Branding, I'm going to flip through quickly because I sent out some core information on branding. So you already have the definition on that. And who are we, and what do we wish our target audience to think and feel? And then once we determine that, let's embed that within our organization. Do we have a mission and vision statement for ourselves in Western outreach? I don't think we do yet. You can't just go and create one. You can go out and create one, but if you don't have the research, then you're going to be, let's say you're going to be in the ballpark, but you're not necessarily going to be getting a base hit. Okay? So product and service development, I actually spoke to a degree on this. Goods and services that are adapted to meet the needs and expectations of the target audience. Srila Prabhupada gave us the framework for what these goods and services are. And following his instructions, can we adapt any platform or technology to propagate and fortify Srila Prabhupada's teachings? It could be. I remember ISKCON, sometimes I'm going to say some things that probably aren't quite right because I'm not so much aware of what goes on in ISKCON North America, and especially in the temples, but I think we used to do a lot more prasadam distribution when I was a kid. Yes or no? You're saying no? We do a lot now? We did a lot more. Yeah. So so that's something that could be amplified. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, you know, just look at the incredible opportunities on prasadam distribution. Even ISKCON today is doing okay. Just imagine the potentials of prasadam distribution if we were to get behind that single product. And everybody that studies or was with Prabhupada, but then reads the Leela, every guest is getting prasadam. See, you know, you can't leave the room before he's giving you a piece of prasadam. He's very strong on it. So, you know, be creative and focus on these framework principles and then energize these elements. I can't emphasize enough this whole notion of content creation. How many people are directly familiar with that term, content creation, as a marketing term? Okay, so let me just go into that. We sit back and let's say that we actually have some really good research and we're more properly and deeply defining our market and who they are and what they're interested in. And we then come up with a brand that says, okay, well, we are this. We would like them to be thinking that. We're properly positioning ourselves. No, positioning is later. And so what now we're doing is we're getting into product development, okay? And we talked about prasadam. That's one of our products. Kirtan is one of our products. We talked about karma, and then karma free came up. That's where we start getting into this content creation, the insightful, innovative ways to explain elements of our philosophy, elements of who we are, things that people can read. Content creation often relates to readable material, but it also relates directly to a Rath Yatra festival. That's content creation, okay? How many people see the ISKCON related videos up on YouTube? You see some of this. What do you feel about the quality of that? Is that something that makes you feel like really great? Most people that I know say, oh my God, can we find out who put it up and can we ask them to take it down? You gonna say something, Raj? Okay. So I have a clear understanding of our products and services, new product development system, old product elimination. It's not maybe eliminating the product itself, but eliminating the way we go about explaining something or the way we end up portraying ourselves. Positioning, the strategies and efforts to influence consumer perception of a brand or product. This can often be relative to the perception of competing brands or products. So let's just think about that. How would we explain bhakti that would entice and encourage the 9 out of 10 people who think they know something about bhakti? That's part of the notion of positioning. So, you know, I already ran through these earlier. Think mantra meditation, think kirtan, think prasadam, think bhakti. We have to position ourselves in such a way that these things become more attractive. Okay, now all of our distribution systems, many of the distribution systems that we have are great. Make them better. There's other distribution systems we're just not using. What would be a distribution system that we're just not using? Somebody? The internet, thank you. Tomorrow I'm going to ask you a question, but I'd like to ask it to you now. So I'm going to just merge the two presentations I have for a little bit. What time do I have to end by? Okay, find out. How many people know what ZMOT means? Raise your hand. ZMOT. How many people know what ZMOT means? Okay, so why is it that you know? Yeah. Oh, okay, you heard Pancharatna use it. Okay. So Pancharatna Prabhu is my partner on the ISKCON Online, and ZMOT means the zero moment of truth. Zero moment of truth, meaning there's not even a millisecond. You hear something, you go to the internet. I've had a typical evening prashad with my wife and my daughter. We're on the internet half the time. You have a discussion, boom, look it up. We did it here. You saw this, it wasn't planned. It's not like Kalakanta and I had some talk. You're gonna say karma free, and I'm gonna ask you to look on the internet, but rather you saw my emotional response, my immediate response. Look it up. That's what all these people doing. How many people feel that at least 50% of the people that we're trying to preach to do that? Okay. How many people feel that 70% of the people that we do that? And would you believe that approximately 84 to 88% of the people, when they hear about ISKCON, or they hear about Hare Krishna, or they hear about the Bhakti, they're going to the internet. If they have a little bit of interest, they're going. 84% of those people going. Okay. Thank you. So, what are the main distribution channels? How convenient are these current channels for our target audiences? How should we change our delivery systems? Finance and budget. The definition is Lakshmi. What are the primary issues of why we don't have a budget? I don't know. What are the primary issues of why we don't have a marketing budget? Or never even thought about, maybe, I don't know. What are the secondary issues? And here's some GBD editorial. I apologize in advance. Globally, stop spending so much money on big temples, spend more money on outreach efforts. And nationally, put together $1 million a year, and that would be a good start, and we could accomplish something. It'd be better to have 2 or 3 million. Okay? Communications and relationships, the process of communicating our products. So let's pass out this ISKCON faith funnel. Maybe 4 or 5 people could help in passing it out. How many people are familiar with a sales funnel? Got a few, okay. A sales funnel and a faith funnel are very similar. Faith funnel, sale funnel, yeah, a sales funnel. You want to go and sell something. And especially in the internet, this is used, but this concept is used throughout business. And the basic notion is you want to go and sell something, but you don't just, if you're talking to a person who already knows about the product, you're talking to them differently. If you're talking to a person that's never heard about the product, you're talking to them differently. And at each stage of the faith funnel, you have to have deliverables that are based on, because up to this point, we've been talking about deliverables that are based on what you might call the demographic, the millennials, as an example, okay? And you're going to speak, to a 18 to 30-year-old differently than you would speak to, what generation am I in? No, come on. Huh? Baby boomer. Yeah, I'm in the baby boomer. So you're going to speak differently to me than you are to an 18-year-old, okay? So that concept everybody gets, okay? But now understand that, okay, regardless of whether you have a millennial, whether you have a baby boomer, you've got people that just need a seed. From there, they start making more contact. From there, they start getting into consideration. Actually, at a certain point, a certain percentage of, then a funnel is that, of course, it's funneling down. So this whole concept of a faith funnel, especially on the internet, but actually in all of our distribution systems, is something that we have to launch and use. Okay, so communications, what we have to offer the marketplace, relatable ways, relevant and relatable, relevant and relatable, and general promotion, written words, face-to-face, events, public relations. These are different types. Building relationships. And lastly, we get to the engine, the fuel, and the wheels of the other 7 elements of marketing. We have to put our devotee culture out into the marketplace. And purity is the force. So, we're not interested in changing anything within ISKCON. We're simply interested in portraying elements of ISKCON that are most attractive to people. So what aspects of our lifestyle should be amplified? And are there aspects of our lifestyle that maybe should be de-amplified? Well, there are some, aren't there? An important aspect of our lifestyle is celibacy. And if that's the first thing that we're going to charge out on, yeah. So, it's not like we're going to hide it. It's just not necessarily the first thing that we're going to talk about. So in the same way that we've got to really come up with a real good brand, we have to understand that our devotee culture is the engine and the fuel and the wheels that power the entire marketing effort, and we have to portray ourselves in such a way that makes sense to our marketplaces and at the same time doesn't reduce any of the purity that we need to bring to the table. Without the purity, we have no potency. So, any questions on this marketing, the 8 elements?
Probably, we in the Bay Area, we try to start creating a brand. But when you talk about market research, like, how do we really find out what is the value of our brand today? With respect, how do we do that?
I'm not 100% sure if I understand your question, but let me start talking about this, and then you tell me if I'm hitting on your point. I think what you're saying is we already have a brand. It's a very important point. We already have a brand. You just don't know it. That brand lives in the mindset of all the people that we've come in contact with. That brand, they have an opinion, they have a thought, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things that research does is it finds out what people are actually thinking about us. It finds out what our actual today current brand is. Because we have to understand that before we just haul off and create a new brand out of the middle of nowhere. So it's a really important point. We've got to figure out what people actually think of us, especially the people that we wish to affect. At that point, we can then start saying, okay, what caused them to think about, if it's negative, because it's not always negative, it could be very positive, but generally speaking, then we have to say, okay, what caused them to be thinking like that? Are there things that we could change? Now, there may be some things that they don't like us. Well, that's too bad, because that's who we are. But if there are things that we could change, then we have to, consider that.
I'm looking at Badri Narayan Swami and Gopal Bhatta in particular in what I'm about to say, and he wants to speak after I do. So I'll walk over there with the microphone when I'm done. Badri Narayan Maharaj. In our group here, I'm sharing with you that this topic is dear to Gopal Bhatta Prabhu's heart. He's got 60,000 other things that he just didn't do so he could come here and do this, and we're very fortunate. And one of the discussions that we've had is, he would ask me, why am I doing this? And my reply was, it's a learning curve. It's like prime the pump and get the persons who are already to some degree or another degree thinking marketing to, and just lift it up a little bit and, get us moving. Now, that's like a preamble. So one of my roles, Badri Narayan Swami would turn to me sometimes and say, Maharaj, you often like to make practical suggestions going forward. What's your practical suggestion? I would not like that we just have a nice, well, that was interesting, what's next, and we just move on and nothing happens. I'd like some action. So turning to you and saying, I have 3 ideas of action based on what I heard. 1, there are persons in this room that are from different centers, and would it be an interesting thing if a group of persons that know about marketing suggested, here's 4 or 5 questions to ask at your Rath Yatra. Can you gather a team at your Rath Yatra or public festivals this year, and by such and such a date, come back with answers from the people that you surveyed? That's 1. 2, we have an opportunity that's going to pass. That's ISKCON 50, where we would like people to understand what is ISKCON when we're not really clear what they already think what ISKCON is, and we would like them to think about ISKCON. So it would make sense, this is a second suggestion, Nanda Sutta is our North American coordinator for this. Could there be a group of people in this room that say, yeah, I'm interested in getting on a periodic call and thinking about how we can utilize ISKCON 50 for a marketing perspective, and come up with some doable ideas that persons in this room can take an interest in and get involved in, and using ISKCON 50 in a marketing way that we're not presently thinking about. And then a third, utopian Brahmapad Swami. Maybe there's even a practical little working committee that thinks, yeah, I'd like to, and not just say, yeah, I'd like to, and then get distracted and we go back, but actually do something to make, move this kind of subject matter forward. Gopal Bhatta, what do you think of those ideas?
I think that the ISKCON 50, I'll start with that. Maybe just even having this dialogue that we're having today is enough to amp up a bit what we're doing on the 50th. And we have to put out our best effort on the 50th, and so, yeah, we should do that. And we should do it with our best understanding of being sensitive to our publics, and trying to word and portray ourselves in the best possible way based on whatever intelligence Krishna is giving us. So I think that we should be, jamming on that. Certainly, specifically as it relates to improving the Rath Yatra, to begin with, we have our internal scan that I think is still relevant. The North American GBC, seen that, and that's something that just alone they could start acting on. Right. Right. So we can, and it's quite possible that if we have a few volunteers, we could put something like that together. I don't know many of the North American devotees, as you know. I'm a bit of a recluse. But Nityananda Pran, you've had 8 or 10 years in marketing? And what was your position? Okay. Online retail. What company? Nielsen. So, I know he's busy being a temple president, but why not put him as the executive of these 8 steps? I'll, work with him. That's one. If you have one person. Yeah, I'll help, but you need an executive, and you're going to see that pretty soon. You need an executive. So I was going to say the same thing that I said in about 5 minutes. I'm just saying what I was going to say, and I'll point out in the show what at that point. Badri Narayan Maharaj.
Yeah, just well, the first thing is, for a scan, what do people think about us? What are the people standing on the edge? I'd like to work with you if you have some time, and we can put together a team and do that at LA Rath Yatra. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
The people sitting on the boardwalk, people participating, not just the festival, but what do they think about us?
Yeah.
And why do they think, what's our brand as it is now? So make a note of that and make me do it.
Can you make that note?
I wrote it down, but and the other thing
No,
is,
we're going to our executive and telling him.
well done, Gopal.
Look,
Yeah,
he's got 10 years in the trenches as a marketing executive.
Okay. Anyway, the point is that I can get the people together. I can coordinate the team. I just need somebody. I don't know how to get the content. I can make sure it gets done if somebody gets me content. I'll even work with them for that. So I guess Nityananda, you're still not going to dodge it, Gopal. But Nityananda, not that you're dodging it, you have so many things to do. But Nityananda Pran and I will work with you as a consultant. You can be, okay, I don't want to take up too much time. The other thing is, how do we get, just like Ron Padmar said, we walk out of here, okay, great, good idea, fine, fantastic, and we maybe tweak our own little world, something. But how to get a budget, a national budget? Because I agree with you, we need to do this. So does it just fall on the North American GBC and we start thinking about it?
The length and breadth of what I'm presenting has to stay on the top line, because I simply wanted to let everybody know on a top level what the potential was. Not let's start practically working on it. Okay, it's great.
But then
that
how
you're
is it not just
thinking,
happy talk? How is that just happy talk and we hope that it germinates
we can
later down the line?
We can see that a few people are saying, yeah, okay, let's do some of this stuff. And so, if Nityananda Pran is not our executive, you need to find an executive. That's the first step. And that's why the third part of the presentation is, hey, let's put together a marketing plan. And so basically, why? Well, okay, what are the main elements of the plan? Develop the marketing team. So as soon as you develop a marketing, you want a team, it means you have to have the team leader. And that's what I was going to suggest, because I know Nityananda Prabhu's history. Deploy these. Yes, of course, Maharaj.
Mataji was very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure the question is quick, so I'll just put it out there and maybe you can answer it later. But regarding the competition, it seems like in terms of who has taken away mantra meditation, kirtan, bhakti, there's a lot of tantrics these days who are talking about, Shakti and Tantra. And in Prabhupada's books, he talks a lot about impersonalism. So he's sort of given us what to say to the impersonalists. But there weren't so many of these people when he was writing his book. So if we could, find out what to say to the Shaktas.
Sure. And we should have something to say to the Buddhists, because the Buddhists are very popular. And, certain aspects of the Buddhist religion tie into bhakti so closely, even though the fundamental is different. So we need a marketing team. And we can't put Nityananda Prabhu on the spot any more than we have already. What you have in this booklet is an outline of these 8 elements of marketing. We would start to practically fill this outline out as we got going. So, for instance, our first step definitely is to do research. It may be that we should, in a formal way, really just concentrate on research for about 6 months, because that's probably what it would take us. The last time I did a research project for my own company, it actually took 4 months. And of course, we're a developed company that has a marketing department and everything else. So, yeah, we need that. We define all the key result areas that we're interested in. This is similar to the GBC strategic plan. The GBC strategic plan doesn't cover all of what the GBC is responsible for. It doesn't cover everything within ISKCON. It's got some level of focus and a certain level of covering only certain things. So we should decide what our key result areas are that we're most interested in. Obviously, Western outreach is the topic in this thing, and probably that's what we should concentrate on. And then within Western outreach, what should we zero in on? Get our overall objectives, measure performance, and take corrective action. There's other sequencing elements in putting together a plan. Create an initial vision. And what I probably should have done was put this in caps, underlined, bold, because it should only be an initial thing. It would change as soon as we started getting our research done. We would start doing some SWOT analysis in conjunction with the full environmental and organizational scans. We definitely have to know who are the players. We know in this room that there's 5 or 6 people that have actually worked in marketing. And we know one person actually was an executive. Out of the other people, when I said if you worked in marketing, has anybody worked in a vice presidential position in marketing? You were a vice president, weren't you? Yeah. So are there other vice presidents in marketing within ISKCON? Full-time devotees, practicing devotees? We don't know. There might be. That would be one of the benefits of doing an organizational scan. We would examine our past, present, and future. Maybe there's only 3 people who were at the SGGS. 4? I think there's 4 devotees here. You were at the SGGS. 5? Okay, we have 5 people that were in the SGGS. Of course, I was counting. Oh, 6. Okay, sorry. So we have 6 or 7. Yeah, 8. Okay. We have 8 devotees that were at the SGGS. SGGS stands for Sannyasis, Gurus, and GBCs. And it's a Sangha, okay? And Braja Bihari Prabhu led that and really did a fantastic job of past, present, and future. It was a 3-day event, we would need to do one of those as part of what we're doing, because we really should analyze our past and our present and speak about our future. We would have to have the right team members to do that, but that's something that really should be done. And then define our primary and secondary markets, identifying the limiting factors. Badri Narayan Maharaj, what would be a limiting factor? You said it before. Where are we going to get our budget? Yeah, it's a limiting factor. So we're going to have to define that. Finalize our mission statements. Once we had sufficient research to do so, create an executive summary. Lead, manage, and execute. ISKCON is a hierarchy. It'd be nice if we could have more bottom-up stuff, but in fact, it's fairly top-down. So the leaders would have to really be behind this. Huh? Yeah.
So you're talking about the formal marketing team for ISKCON, right? Yeah. So, but in the corporations, you have marketing team as well as your product development team, which take so where is that hacked aspect here?
Yeah, the basic structure should be an executive marketing team that has at least 4 teams working underneath them. And it's populated with, for an organization our size, we would want to populate it with 50 devotees. The executive team being 4, 5, 6 people. The research team being 5 or 6 people that then also have temporary people underneath them that they could send out into the field and do research, etc. A product development team. Branding is something that the executive team would do, but product development is a separate team working underneath an executive team. Distribution should probably be another team. Communication should be another team, all working under an executive team.
Sure, I get that actually. So my question is, so that after the market study or market research, right? So we need to tweak our product. So how much leverage we have in redefining our product to cater to the market?
We have tremendous leverage if the leadership allows.
So I'll give you an example, Prashadam distribution.
Yeah.
Prashadam is a product, right? So in the in the university preaching, right? So people are too much, interested in vegan. So can we market our product as vegan-friendly Prashadam, even though that's not our philosophy? Because just an example. So I can give you many examples.
Yeah,
But
and these are great questions, and that's why we have to, when marketing, see, marketing doesn't rule an organization, right? The top people in marketing are usually vice presidents, and they report to presidents. And so when you come up with a question like that, that's something that has to go to our top leadership. And then they have to make that spiritual discretion and say, no, we don't want to market vegan, or there's no harm in marketing vegan, market it, it's Prashadam. They have to make that decision. That's why we have to have our leadership behind such a notion. If they're not behind it, it won't work.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, develop a marketing culture. So in other words, we spoke about communication being needed to communicate to those that we wish to affect, the Western outreach. But we need communication throughout ISKCON to start changing some of the dynamics of our culture. There's a customer dimension. These 5, I'm going to bring all 5 up. When you talk about culture, these 5 are the 5 that bring the most amount of productivity to an organization. And so we need to culturally change internally ourselves. How do we view those people that we wish to preach to? What are we dealing with in terms of ourselves? What systems do we need? How will we become more systemized, right? Systematically spread Krishna consciousness, as Srila Prabhupada told us. We've got to have innovation, and at the same time, the innovation has to stay within our line, just as we just had that discussion. And we've got to be performance oriented. So the top leadership would have to get behind these five, and through internal communications, start to change the dynamic within ISKCON, and letting everybody know what's happening and getting everybody behind it, okay? So, you know, that's that strong communication with all of ISKCONs. And I wanted to emphasize that the PDSA and the evaluating, staying awake to environmental and organizational changes. So wrapping up this portion, and then I just have a short a follow-up portion after this. Develop a spiritually powerful marketing mindset. Deploy ISKCON's 8 elements of marketing. Develop, lead, manage, and execute a strategic marketing plan. And it's all about our devotee culture. It's the devotee culture that powers the other 7 elements of the 8 elements of ISKCON's marketing. And don't forget that faith funnel. It's a really, really important concept. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I want to recognize my son Devala, who was a full partner in working with me over the last 5 weeks in putting all of this together. It's been a joy working with him. And all glories to Srila Prabhupada. We have one more short segment left, but before we go to that, just want to see if there's any last questions that anybody would like to ask. We can spend about 3-4 minutes on questions. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the really nice presentation. I just had a quick question about harmonizing branding initiatives. So we were talking about identifying the customer segment and accordingly amplifying or de-emphasizing certain aspects, at least in the initial context in that stage. But in cases of local individual efforts under the umbrella of the same temple, let's say, for example, there are very, very distinct target audiences. So a Chinese outreach program might look totally different than a college preaching program.
Sure.
So how important is it to harmonize those even further localized initiatives with the larger ISKCON, in this case Chicago, or ISKCON overall identity?
Eventually, let's say that ISKCON leadership said, yeah, let's get into putting these ISKCON's 8 steps of marketing into place, okay? Probably after some research, we're gonna I don't know, wherever the team would go, but they're probably gonna zero in on the millennials. And as part of that, they're gonna come up with some core truths about us, core truths about those that we wish to affect. And those people that are into Chinese devotee, making devotees out of the Chinese, they could utilize that, okay? Just stay awake and aware of what's happening, and they could apply some of those core principles, okay? They might even start by staying awake to all the marketing developments that are being done for this target marketplace, start to even apply some of these notions, okay? So, you know, it's basically built on a pyramid, okay? The base has to be real strong, and then you can begin to build the rest of the building. And like I said at one point in my talk, it take 5 years to change, you know, the face of ISKCON. I was going to say change the face of Iraqis, but I don't think anybody's read that book. Okay. I hope that answers that question. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a very nice presentation. I know the topic was more at an organizational level, how to bring about a change. But I've been just thinking like what I can do when I go back in my tiny little project, because all of these sound very theoretical to me, just because probably I do not have the necessary background. So I was wondering whether we can take some sort of a case study and go through like this whole process and see what it takes to implement that.
Well, first of all, each and every one of us, when you see my presentation tomorrow on ISKCON Online, which is directly related to everything that we speak about, ISKCON Online has a whole lot of articles. ISKCON Online's effort, I'm not going to take the time to speak about it in great detail, but basically join the learning universe. Or if we're not going to create a learning universe today, start your own learning universe. Just start learning about some of these basic marketing things. Tomorrow you'll see immediate access to a whole bunch of learning things, okay? We just want to learn more about what it takes to express ourselves in a way that is more easily accessible to the people that we're expressing to. And that art, that notion, that concept, business is using everywhere. Okay, so there's a lot that you can just grab hold of and utilize in Krishna service. So you don't actually have to wait. You can start learning today. And as you learn, you'll do better at the process of expressing yourself in such a way that people are more easily able to understand what you're saying. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. In the early days of the movement, it seemed like the entirety of the budget was considered to be a marketing budget. And maybe there was an imbalance there, so now that's shifted. And at the end, we could see that as a spiritual potency, that there was a movement towards everyone thinking we could make this whole place Krishna conscious. So I wanted to ask you to describe maybe more in detail on your last point on the slide about how to create that spiritual culture of marketing for everyone, even on a ground level.
Oh. I still have one last addendum, so I think the question is a super great question. I don't think I can do justice to the question. Maybe another day. Yeah. I want to end on time. So, any fast questions besides a big question like he just gave? Because that was a big question, yes. SWOT, oh, that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay. Okay, so we're now going to pass out. Unfortunately, we were making these booklets, and anybody that's made these kind of booklets, I'm sure you understand there's a whole lot of time that it takes to make them. And so as a result, I only have 100 of these to pass out. And we're going to spend a few minutes talking about them. Because first of all, I think we're all in the mood of understanding that we can go out and find out what other people are doing and utilize that in Krishna's service. So, you know, over in Washington, D.C., Ananda Vrindavan Mataji, and then her son, Gopinath, and then Braja Bihari, and they bumped into this guy, Andy Stanley, okay? And then Braja Bihari sent me this book, and I usually read for about a half an hour before I take rest, so the book was sitting there on my bedstand and for about 2-3 months. And then I started going through it a little bit, and I was thinking, well, man, this is a little bit thick in the beginning, because it is. He doesn't talk a lot about principles, he's talking about himself. But because he told me, yeah, no, you got to read this book, it's a very good book, and he took the time to send it to me, eventually, after about 3 months, I got to read the whole thing, and I said, wow. And this is a guy who is really doing marketing. And so then contacted Kaishori, and as you may not know, how many people know Kaishori? Not a whole lot. So Kaishori is one of the best editors in our movement, a very literary person. She's edited many of the books that you've read, okay? She works full-time with the BBT. You just stand up for a second and Hare Krishna. So, you know, she read the book and said, oh, okay, great. And we decided, okay, we're going to put together a book report on this to show as a practical example what an organization can accomplish through basically marketing. And, you know, Andy Stanley, in the book, he tells his story. He's a Christian, an evangelical. You know that some of these evangelicals are, yeah, fill in the blank, you know. But within the Christian notion, Andy Stanley is a real person, okay? And built his organization to be the third largest megachurch in the United States. And did it in what appears to be a really heartfelt way. So some of the core questions that we have been talking about today, like who are we, okay? And who are we trying to serve? And all of these kinds of questions, he practically answered them for himself and thus built this great church. So we decided, okay, we're going to do a book report for all of you. How many people, because there was a limit, I only brought 100, how many people did not get a copy? Raise your hand. Okay, so Rasika Manjari Prabhu will send out the soft copy, okay? And if you'll see, it's so expertly done by Keshori because she's taken excerpts from the book and then posed a number of questions for ourselves that are based on that, okay? Like, you know, who are we was a big issue in their church for many years, okay? And they eventually answered that. So she then puts forth that notion, okay? Who are we, specifically then, who are we to the people that we wish to serve? Keshori, any other comments? Where's the mic? No, please, you spend a lot of time on it, and I know you didn't want to speak, but you know that I wanted to. She's refusing.
I'm sorry, I just don't have a
There's 2 minutes left. Go ahead.
I don't know if it's appropriate. You can say yes, no, or maybe. I'd be interested to see, there's a working committee, and I'm interested in not overtaxing Nityananda because we spent some time, you know, talking about what he has to do and doesn't have time to do. But I would be interested, maybe a huddle somewhere over there of persons that would be interested to be a participant in a marketing committee group or something like that. And then maybe you can convene the initial one and decide amongst the people who's out there that could also head it up, and you can be a participant rather than the head. Something like that.
Sure. Raja Bihari said that he would be in charge. Is that what you raised your hand for?
So do we have an act, like?
Yeah, maybe during lunch. There's no lunch. It's a fast all day.
Yeah.
Oh.
Except for those that are diabetic and, you know.
Yeah, and I am diabetic. I'm going to have to eat something. Feeling even a little lightheaded now. I know my blood sugar's down.
What about the answer to my question? How lightheaded are you? How lightheaded are you?
No, we can do that. Are you going to take a break right now?
We're going to take a break right now.
Okay, so we can take a break. I thank you very much.
No, what about, where can they, but please. I don't need to prompt you to get people together. Come on. So those that, can I see a show of hands of persons that are enough interested in the notion of having a committee that they'd like to be part of the initial committee and finding other people that aren't with us that have that propensity, capacity training. Chartered is to make some initial brainstorming actions at least, you know, a list of things that at Rath Yatras, we can do a little scanning of, you know, what people think ISKCON is. At least that. And then whatever other things. Show of hands? Be interested to, okay. Could you, just like right over there by where that whiteboard is, excuse me, Gopal.
No, no problem.
Oh, right over there. Just like stand over, as soon as we're, during the break session, just stand over there, exchange, we gather the names and, you know, something or other. And you can convene that initial thing.
Just about the Andy Stanley book, because I was the one who sent it to Gopal Bhatta Babu. I do suggest you take a few minutes to read, or take the time to read that. I did some experiments. He has one thing where he says, in every talk that you give, or every sermon, they call it, you should be able to answer two questions. What do you want the people to know, and what do you want them to do? And so I've applied that to, we call it a Sunday open house on our Sunday, and then one time I took one of his sermons and I just like verbatim copied it and just Krishna'ized it and used things from the Shastra. And I've had people come up to me, you know, they said, I've listened to your lecture 4 times, and you know, that was the best lecture ever given at the temple. You know, anyway, it was just because his, you know, he gives some very clear ideas of how to present and keep on target and not meander here and there, and keeping it short, and things that are very practical and very helpful.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.